What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Smashing Brands podcast. My name is Vlad Mkrtumyan, and today I am joined by Vlad. How do you pronounce your last name again?
Mkrtumyan. Mukr like trucker.
Okay.
Tomb like a tombstone. Yawn like you're yawning.
Vlad Mkrtumyan.
Tumyan, yeah, like
Tumyan.
the word tomb.
Got it. So Vlad is the co-founder of an awesome SEO agency based out of Seattle called Logic Inbound.
Thank you.
And he's also the host of a really popular meetup group, has over 4,000 members, called Co-Founders Connect. And overall, he's just done a really great job of connecting entrepreneurs to investors and anybody really looking to do new ventures. So what are some of the other events that you're hosting?
Sure, so I run about 5 total.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, Co-Founders Connect, Cryptocurrency Church of Seattle. In fact, I have some co-organizers. My friend Justin also helps me run that, as well as Yossi. Web Designers of Seattle, event organizers, and marketing roundtable.
Awesome. So you're really doing a lot, and I think that's awesome. And something to note about Vlad is just because you have a strong, really personal brand doesn't necessarily go down to how many followers you have on social media or something like that. For example, Vlad does not have 50,000 LinkedIn followers.
Sadly, no.
He's not verified on Instagram. He's not a best-selling author. But in my opinion, he's really built a strong offline personal brand just because he's so connected. And from what I know, he has a strong reputation. It seems like everybody we meet, or everybody I'm networked with, who's an entrepreneur or a business owner in the Seattle area, knows Vlad one way or another. For example, I had a meeting just a few days ago, and somehow Vlad's name came up. I was like, wait, you know Vlad? He's like, who doesn't know Vlad?
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so really Vlad is very well connected, and what I want to ask you is, how would you define your personal brand?
Sure. I would define my personal brand as the actions that I've taken. So basically, the trust that I've built up through the actions I've taken, and it's really personally I consider myself a connector, and that's what I'm known as, right? So those are the actions that I take. I connect people, and that's how I build up the brand of being a connector. And that's how I identify with my personal brand. And I feel like people build their personal brands through their actions, and that's how people build trust.
I totally agree. So when I consider, how would you define a personal brand, or how do you build a personal brand? I think it really starts with, what problem do I solve? Right? Because that's kind of what your reputation is based off of. For example, you connect people, like you said, but you have a different reputation or a different personal brand for Logic Inbound, right? You help people show up in Google and get good search rankings.
True.
And I think the second thing, as far as building a personal brand, is what am I really passionate about? Because I feel like if we can bring the passion along with the problem we solve, we can do really a lot of amazing things. So, Vlad, right now, I think you're a thriving connector. You're really well connected. What has really come out of that for you, out of building your personal brand?
Sure. So thank you, and I think I've got a long way to go to be a much better connector, etc. But what's come out of it for me is when I feel like the audience, if they think to themselves, like, who are the most influential people in my network, right? Who have done the most for me, right? Similar results. Of course, mine's are more business focused because that's where I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Right. But basically, so it's gotten me, SEO projects, 6-figure website deals, meetings with venture capitalists and startup co-founders, advisors, 9-figure mentors, and 8-figure and 7-figure, every mentor,
Yeah.
That's what it's gotten me. And also, I think the joy of actually being able to see the Seattle community, get closer and more tight-knit, because I feel like we're in a tight-knit community, and I like to build it up. I love building networks and communities.
I think that's awesome. So what's the most amazing result that has come out of connecting people that you can think of?
I mean, financially, easily the most money is the 6-figure website referral from networking.
Okay, what about not financially?
Non-financially, it would be, and I don't know what transpired. I think maybe nothing transpired. I don't know. But my cousin she helps she's part of a nonprofit that basically helps like kids learn to read or something, you know?
Yeah.
So
what did you do for them exactly?
So she was like, we're looking for sponsors, and I was like, let me introduce you to a little company.
Awesome.
And I introduced her to a little company that you might recognize that helped them, called Microsoft.
Wow.
So yeah, so I don't know if actually anything transpired, but I felt really good when I made that introduction to an event organizer at Microsoft who said, yeah, we're actually looking to help kids, you know, and I made that intro, right? Or, you know, I mean, you know, a lot of them were business related, so I helped two people connect and they became co-founders and they started a company, you know. Hearing from people, you know, saying, hey Vlad, thank you so much for connecting me to ABC, right? This has done a lot for me.
I love connecting people too, because, you know, I think we both get fulfillment out of helping other people, because, you know, we talk about the butterfly effect, you know, just that one connection.
Huge, yeah.
That you introduce somebody to could change everything.
100%.
And I'm just so thankful for the people in my life that introduced me to certain people. So I feel, you know, the same urge to get back to others.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. I definitely agree with that. You know, one of my favorite Mark Cuban sayings is, he's one of my favorite entrepreneurs. One of my favorite Mark Cuban sayings is, it only takes one, right? It only takes one idea, one client, and it could change your whole game like that, you know?
Yeah, or just one conversation with somebody that just changes your thought process.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so here you are today. What was Vlad's personal brand like 4 years ago? Who were you 4 years ago? How have you evolved?
It's a great question. I would say I was less confident 4 years ago, and I'm still building up that confidence.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I still don't consider myself an entrepreneur or anything, and I feel like I shouldn't, you know, until I get a 7-figure company, etc. You know. So yeah, it was really just kind of a less confident connector, right?
Yeah.
But then the more
you were still a connector back then?
Yeah.
Okay.
I loved connecting people back then too, even 4 years ago.
Yeah.
But it's just the more you do it, the more confident you become, the better you become, and it's like a self-perpetuating cycle. 4 years ago, Co-Founders Connect actually did not exist.
Yeah.
And what really spurred me to connect so many people is starting that group, because I was like, you know what, I'm really passionate about this. I really want to know about startups, because that's where my passion really lies.
Yeah.
You know, and so let me just marry the two, start Co-Founders Connect, and let's just see what happens.
I think that's so relatable to what I'm doing, kind of with Smashing Brands. So Smashing Brands is a podcast and a content series, you know, on LinkedIn, all about building a personal brand, right? And to be honest, I'm still learning about this topic, and I still want to educate myself on it, which is why I have people like you on my podcast who have built offline brands, and then other people will be on my podcast who built online personal brands. So honestly, it's constant learning. And dude, it's not just I'm gonna read a book, it's like I'm gonna really share it with other people, right? Like, this podcast is really less about me and more about you guys watching it right now. And I think even putting on an event for your own education, but it's not just about you, because you're gonna introduce so many people and stuff like that. It's just kind of incredible. So what was your motivation behind, you know, I'm really going to take this seriously and devote this amount of time to helping these people and putting on these events?
That's interesting. Well, the events, for the Co-Founders Connect events themselves, really they just stemmed from positive feedback from people and, you know, a passion. Whenever running an event can be very stressful, but at the same time, at the end of the event, when it was over, I remember driving back home and I was like, man, this was fantastic. Like, I love doing this.
Yeah.
You know, it was great. And that feeling, and I remember that feeling, and I was like, I want to do this more often. And then also thinking like, wow, doing these events, and then I can actually, it gives me a very great value proposition, right? Like a sales pitch of reaching out to a very successful entrepreneur or a venture capitalist or angel investor. And them agreeing, it's great. I mean, everybody loves making a sale, right? Or somebody agreeing to do something, right? As you build this community bigger and bigger, and the more people that say yes to it, just like your podcast, right?
Yeah.
The more satisfying it'll be. And then, you know, then sometimes maybe you'll want to take a break or whatever you're interested in. But it was huge, you know.
This is an excellent segue. into the question, how do I network with high net worth individuals?
Yeah.
And I think you can touch on this obviously, but I'm going to give my take on how this works for you, which is basically, okay, if we're talking somebody who's like a multi-millionaire, you can try to help them by giving them an introduction, but they don't really need it. You know what I mean?
No, they don't need it.
What these people really want, or at least what I observed, is that they really want to help others and give back to the community. And what Vlad does is he puts on these events. They're not small, you guys. These, a lot of the time, like Co-Founders Connect is like a 100-person event at least. You put on an amazing growth event, by the way, just a few months ago with Josh Bechter and all those other people.
Yeah.
And there's a huge value proposition for an angel investor or a serial entrepreneur to really want to speak at one of these events. So if we talk about, a funnel, more or less, your way to networking with these high net worth individuals, or a lot of the time, is getting them to initially speak at your events, right?
This is a great question. So I'm going to take a step back. The original question, right, because we jumped right into events as the solution.
Yeah.
The original question was, how do you network with high net worth individuals? Right?
Yeah.
So I would say I actually did that before the events.
Okay, how did you do it then?
It was honestly, and I know a guy who has networked with high net worth individuals through the podcast stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Through cold emails. Honestly, most people, in fact, at 21, I met the CEO of Costco, who's a billionaire, who I never had speak at my event, who's, gave me some fantastic advice that I remember today, right? How did I meet him? I simply asked. Like, my mom was an accountant at Costco. I was like, hey, ask him if I could speak. She's like, what? I was like, just ask him. Who cares?
That's the thing, you just need to ask. Right?
Exactly. So
not enough people are asking.
That is really, it's that simple for high net worth individuals if you just ask, right? In terms of building a closer relationship with them, right? Getting a face-to-face meeting, if you make a good first impression, right? For me, Co-Founders Connect makes a great first impression because they can say I genuinely care. It's not a scheme, right? It's not some kind of Machiavellian thing,
Yeah.
But they see, wow, this guy actually cares about the community.
Yeah.
Wow, I have a lot of influence. I want to help other people who are going to help the community, right? At least the good people out there. Because people that are high net worth aren't necessarily all good always, right?
Yeah.
They're multi-million-dollar assholes, I know.
Right.
So, but it helped me connect to the people I want to be connected to that are also very successful.
Right.
And I mean, it's paid dividends. I just talked to one of my very successful mentors like last week, and he snapped me into shape.
Right. That's all it takes.
I mean, it's huge. But really, if you ask, I mean, you yourself, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you did a podcast interview when you reached out to Dirks from Project Bionic.
No,
right?
I was just completely authentic in the way I approached it.
Exactly, right? You didn't ask him to speak at an event, but Project Bionic, I'll give a shout out to them. They're an awesome company, right? There's just awesome people like him in the community, right? Who are successful and are building an awesome company, right?
Yeah.
Who are willing to give their time. So if you want to connect to high net worth individuals, you literally just ask, right? Now, if they say no initially, then that doesn't mean, if they say no, never contact me again, then never contact me again. But if they say no initially, right, just come up with a different ask, right? Be like, what about getting on a podcast? What about getting on an interview? Are you interested in this, right?
Okay.
And then that's when you go to the other ways to give different value propositions.
That's the thing. So initially, like, if you're looking, like, we can talk about why networking with high net individuals is useful for your personal brand all day.
Well, I mean, I think it's fairly obvious, though.
Yeah. But what you're saying is just don't be afraid to reach out to people for stuff like advice or mentorship, or if they say no, or you have something better to offer, be like, hey, do you want to be on my podcast? I could get you some exposure and an audience you're interested in, or, you can speak at one of my events. So what has, the leverage you've built with Co-Founders Connect done for you as far as...
Exactly. Yeah. So obviously, though, having Co-Founders Connect does help. But sometimes that could be dangerous, too. Because if I want to speak to a high net worth person, right, or whatever, right, it might attract the wrong type of individual. Somebody who wants the fame, right? I've had a fake angel investor on my panel before, and so that's the danger of when you start building something that is, people gets attention. But to take a step back there, right? It's given me huge opportunities, right? Because people they talk to you on the panel, and then after that you can say, hey, let's do a one-on-one, and they'll
Right.
a lot of times they'll want to, because they're like, wow, I actually already did agree to speak at this event. I liked, whenever people speak at events, I don't care if you're the most boring speaker in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could be like the most, think of like Frankenstein teaching a college lecture, right? You'll always get at least one person to come up to you and be like, that was a great talk.
Yeah, awesome.
It doesn't matter if you're real super shitty. So they'll always feel good about it, right?
Yeah.
And then they'll be like, oh yeah, I feel good about that. I like that. Let me talk to this person, right? So it's definitely helped me. I'm obsessed with building. What's interesting is building communities is what I'm really interested in.
Yes.
And I think that has to do with, it's very, it's like brothers or cousins or twins with a brand. I'd love to actually hear your thoughts of what you think building a community
Yeah.
and a brand. Because when I was creating Co-Founders Connect, I thought to myself, like, I'm going to create a community of co-founders because I'm dealing with all this shit that I need solved, right?
Yeah.
What if there was a community that could help me? And I couldn't find
you
one.
create it.
So I was like, it doesn't exist. Maybe other people have this pain. Let me create it, right? How close do you think that those are, building brand and communities?
I think they're very close. And I was going to ask you the question, how important is building a community for developing your personal brand? And I'm just going to give my take on it. I think it's incredibly important, because, like I said, you're building a personal brand, you're solving a problem, you're trying to help other people. And if you can really create a community around that, on that subject, then that brings a bunch of those people. Like, for example, personal branding is so niche, right? More or less. I mean, people talk about it, but it's not super common. It's a blue ocean for a lot of people.
Interesting.
Yeah, so if you can really create a community around that, then you create, a lot of relationships within that, and it builds your authority as kind of the expert, so to speak, if you can be the lead of that community. So, for example, with Co-Founders Connect, it's all about launching a business, finding a partner, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of that is relationship building. You're the person that really leads that. So you kind of have an authority within the group and on the subject, more or less, at least to that group of people, right?
Yeah, no, very true. Yeah, I've been authority since I built the community up, and then I've got the microphone in my hand and all that, right? But I think, building this community, it's interesting. I don't know if communities talk about no one talks about like the Vlad brand that I know of. Maybe you do, But I think building community is super important if you want to have a great company or a product. I don't think people necessarily. Well, actually, I disagree. If you get Michael Jordan's level, that's actually, I would say that's when you've made it. Mm-hmm. When you've got the Facebook fan page.
Yeah.
Right? The Alec Mountain Facebook fan page, that's when you've established a strong brand.
Right.
Right. So yeah, so I guess that is what it comes back down to.
I think building a community is building a resource for people to help each other. But at the same time, I would say it's just creating potentially a lot of fans of people that like you as well for what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So you're at here right now, you've built a really great offline personal brand. You're connected to a lot of people. What is the future of your personal brand and where you're headed, do you think?
I don't know, ultimately, to be honest. I don't know what's going to happen, right? There's a fine balancing act, right? You got to have focus, but you can't have the blinders on so tight that like you're blind to all this fantastic opportunity out there, personally, right? But I think that ultimately I'm going to get tighter and tighter into the startup community here, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm going to become more and more involved, and I'm going to make more and more valuable connections over time, right? Yeah. Now, quantifiably, what is that going to lead into, right? Only the future, knows. I don't know, whatever that saying is. But yeah, ultimately, in the future, I really just want to build a great company. And something interesting also that I thought about, people that build great brands, mm-hmm. right? They're either, I feel like they're known for creating something, either like a great product or a great company, or other than that, or like athletes. Besides like athletes, musicians create great music.
Yeah.
Like they're known for, I guess, well actually, yeah, take a look at like Mother Teresa or something, right? Does she have a Facebook fan page, right? but I guess they have to do something awesome, and that's all I want to do. I want to just make an impact, do something awesome.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and then I really, I don't know. I just want to double my company every year. That's my goal.
And how is your personal brand and what you're doing at Co-Founders Connect and all these other meetup groups contributing to that?
To my business?
Yeah.
So Co-Founders Connect, very easy, right? So like, if you talk to multi-millionaires who might need your service, might be potential partners, right? Give you great feedback, right? Those are all fantastic people to know, right? For Co-Founders Connect.
So really, building the personal brand around the community and stuff like that is really a networking tool for you to get all this great advice from all these people, including these mentors.
Yeah.
And that information is contributing to your business.
Yeah, and it wasn't as Machiavellian as, because if I wanted to like extract the most value out of Co-Founders Connect, right, I wouldn't have done SEO, because an SEO client is like an enterprise, like companies are like the best for margin and all that, right? I would have done something like startup IP valuation, Like imagine the startup IP valuation guy. He would love to have Co-Founders Connect, right?
Yeah.
You get all the startups there.
Totally.
Right. But instead, really, I just try to respect that community for what it is, which is a bunch of co-founders that are, like let's face it, if you're a co-founder, right, most likely you're scruffing it, right? 90% of you.
Yeah.
But I want to be respectful of that community, and then the way I draw my value from it, though, is the speakers and the panelists who also want to help that same homeless community.
Interesting.
Co-founders that we all love, that I've been /am from time to time.
Cool. So building a community, I think, we've talked about this. I think it's really important for building a personal brand, especially if you're in a niche where there's not a lot of other meetups and stuff going on. It really gives you a chance to connect with like-minded people, and like we said, it kind of established an authority in a way. And my question to you is, how do we really build a community?
How do you build a community?
How do you build
I love that. Okay, I love that question, right? So because I love marketing, right? The reason I got into marketing is because my previous two companies failed, right? Why did they fail? Because I couldn't extract enough value from the product, right? Why couldn't I get value around the products or the service? Is because I couldn't either build communities around them and connect to that network, right? They're all kind of related. So you build that community, right, by reaching out or interacting with the members in it that have those same interests, right? And showing passion, showing expertise, creating value for them by solving problems, etc., right? Maybe creating content, right?
Okay.
And then slowly over time, people start noticing, like, oh, interesting, Alec did that. Oh, interesting, he did that. Oh, he's doing, well, have you seen him? And then they'll start talking about you slowly. Did you see that one though?
Yeah,
Have you seen his 10th one? That was horrendous. The 11th one was pretty good though.
Right.
And then, right, it'll like a little snowball effect, and then before you know it, and then every single piece of action you take to either, solve a problem for the community, create a piece of content, answer a question, interact with a member, right? Over every piece of action, right, you learn from. You get better over time, which I feel like a lot of people, they kind of overlook that process too. Getting better, right? If I was smarter about these podcast episodes, right, I get on about 1 or 2 a week. I would write down all my notes on how to get better on every podcast episode, which I will start doing from now on, right? But then over time, you get better and better, and your audience notices and they get excited, because then you're really filling their need.
Yeah, so you're kind of building an audience by contributing to the rest of the community. More or less, is that what you're saying?
You're building, these communities already exist, right? You're just resonating with the members, and then they're getting attracted to you. The Co-Founders Connect members on meetup.com already, right? They already exist. Their pains and needs, right? Yeah. And wants for it already existed, right? They just came to me because they saw that, oh, there it is, right? There's a solution. It's like how do you sell apples, right? Like people already love apples, right, so to speak, or maybe another fruit. I don't know, right? Whatever, right? There are food connoisseurs already out there. They're your audience, right? You just got to slowly start talking to one by one and improving over time, and they'll find you. it's interesting because I used to think you have to chase.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's all about attracting.
It's just really providing value, whether it's answering people's questions, giving them introductions, creating content, really
learning,
just giving.
Learning from all that. And I used to think it was chasing. Now it's really becoming the person that they want to chase after.
What does chasing look like? Just so we have a
Chasing,
comparison.
when I'm chasing, it's like, for SEO, right? Let's say it's SEO. Hey, Alex, are you interested in SEO for smashing brands, right?
Right.
Let's say you're like, no, I'm not, right? But I'd be like, why not, right? Why aren't you interested?
Yeah.
You'd be like, well, it's not the time, not the budget, whatever, right? And then I'll sit back and forth and we'll just argue, right? Which is a part of it, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, right? If I was smart, then I'd be like, I'd just learn, right? On the flip side, if I created a series about SEO podcasts and how to get your podcast episodes to rank online for keywords, right? Then you'd find me. It's inbound, right? But also, if I talk to you, to 500 of you, right? Then I'd learn what your pain points are, what your objections are before you even said them, so I know what to say before you even think of them.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
This is, I think, not to get too Steve Jobsy on this, but when he talks about I invent the best thing before interviewing, right? I think the way to do that in the perfect world, or theoretically, this is my theory on this, right? Obviously, me and you have a long way to go to get there. Super long way, especially for
we're young. Good thing we're young.
Yeah, I wish I was younger. But basically, you talk to your community members so much. Maybe you are your own user as well, right?
Yeah.
That once you click it, you're like, yeah, I know this is gonna revolutionize the whole thing. So yeah, does that answer?
Yeah, it answers my question, and so I can kind of maybe clarify a little bit. When you're building a community, it's less about chasing after people and more about having them come to you. And what that looks like, this could be a good analogy. It could be, let's say you're a B2B SaaS company. It could be the difference between your inbound marketing efforts, creating content, hosting webinars, hosting conferences, versus your outbound sales team making cold calls left and right.
Yeah.
Is that a good analogy?
Yeah, but and this is kind of goes back to business. I was thinking about this today, right?
Yeah.
Preparation is everything, right? I filled a call today, right, with a potential client for Shopify, right? And at the end of the day, I was like, what could we have done better? He was like, well, you didn't use any of the Shopify keywords of the platform for SEO, right? If you would have done that, then I would have maybe seen my intuition is off, right?
Yeah.
So by him, and I wrote all this down, right? So it's like next time I deal with somebody like him, right? I'm more prepared. And how do you become prepared, right? Well, obviously there's experience by making those cold calls, to serve that audience, right? But also, at the same time, I guess, yeah, by experience, but also reading every single book on the topic, talking to these mentors, talking to these advisors, etc. Experimenting.
Yes, yes. So you're kind of doing a lot of things at once. And when you're building a personal brand, you really need to prioritize the time and the development in order to really do that successfully. And that can mean a lot of things. It can mean building a community, like you said, creating a meetup, creating content on platforms like LinkedIn and stuff like that, maybe writing books on the subject, writing blog posts. But also, like you, I assume I'm so motivated by not knowing what I don't know and knowing there's always a smarter way to do something.
100% of the time.
So I think just being able to talk to other like-minded people, forming a mastermind group, talking to mentors who have done what you've done is really important.
Yeah, I would say, now I'm talking to myself now.
Yeah.
But, I'm going to watch this after myself, Alex. But every action you take, right, every brand serves a community, right? It attracts community, right? So every action you take, you need to study that action and ask yourself, how could that better serve the community?
Yeah, so it's really like product validation almost. It's almost like an MVP. So if we're talking about creating our own meetup, for example, well, first of all, let's say I'm interested in creating a meetup. How do I really do that, and how do I get people to show up at my event?
Yeah, sure. So the way you grow a meetup is first, you pick the topic, right?
Yeah.
You find your competitors, you do your due diligence on that audience. It's just like any marketing campaign, right? Where's that audience today, right? You find out where the audience is, you start messaging those members to join your meetup, right? Whether through a virtual assistant or you yourself, right?
Yeah.
Talk about them, what they're interested in, right? Become them, right? If you are them, then it's much easier to serve, right?
Yeah.
Then, basically after that, right? After you know all their pain points, right? Then you can invite them in, right? When you got that connection,
Right.
right? If you use meetup.com and you know the major pain point, for example, for the crypto meetup, right? If the market just bombed, right?
Yeah.
And crypto meetups are notorious for my crypto meetups for however many people a show is how high the market is. The higher it is, the more people there are. In fact, I made fun of them on one meetup. I was like, wow, there's 100 of you here today. Well, we were at $3,000.
Yeah.
They all started laughing, and I was like, wow. Everybody wants a short-term game. But let's say the market bombs, right? And you create an event. There's two guys that create events, right? To attract communities, right? They're all both targeted the crypto community. One says the best crypto coins, right? Whatever, generic. The other guy actually says, why did the market bomb, right? Come to our meetup, right? Which one do you think they're going to go to? Because this guy speaks their language. He knows what their pain point is, right? He pays attention. He knows what's valuable to them. He studies through his actions, right? Every action is kind of a micro test for the next one. You're constantly improving.
It's just like any other product, like a software product or something like that.
Or service, yeah.
Yeah, you're creating, a solution that solves a problem. And 100%. It's up to you, and to get the feedback of other people to figure out what do you want out of this meetup and stuff like that. And what you're doing is you're creating these meetups, based on what you initially know about your audience. You're putting that on, and then you're continuously getting feedback, almost like agile product development, right? Yeah,
I'm a huge fan of taking action, iterating, iterating, constantly.
So, how important in growing your meetup was actually just going to other networking events and talking to people and building connections that way?
That's a great question. So, like, how did other connections and networking events impact me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say fairly important because I knew what the ones I liked, I knew the ones I didn't like, but also, I'll say maybe 30-40% effective. Because when you're throwing the meetup, right, it's like how does consuming pizza affect your ability to start a pizza shop, right? When you're consuming, you're like, what tastes you like, etc. But running a pizza shop is a whole different thing, right?
Yeah.
Just because you can eat pizza doesn't mean you can be a pizza store owner, right? Or you should be. So that would be the same thing, right? I knew what I liked, right? And that was great initial research, but there's only so much I could have done before it was really, because one thing I thought I would do is, a lot of times what you think and what's true, not the same. So
right.
I thought that I'd start Co-Founders Connect and I would enjoy this awesome meetup.
Yeah.
People still love the meetup, but I didn't enjoy it as much, at least the initial ones. Because I was always running around, doing food, doing all these activities, right? So that is the main, my main kind of takeaways and the difference between, how going to events versus throwing my own.
So you've gone to a lot of networking events. You've met a lot of people.
My fair share.
Yeah. So what are some tips on how to be a great networker?
Great. Yeah. So that's a great question. I would say first of all, show that you care, right? Because most people, they just suck at showing that they care, if they do, or maybe they just don't care, right? So if you show the other person, if you're actually genuinely interested in them, they're just saying, people are interested in them, people are interested in those that are interested in them.
Yeah, it's like to be interesting, you have to be interested.
Yeah, or another thing is people like those who are like them, right?
Yeah.
So you show interest, and if you show interest, they're like, wow, this person's kind of like me. They think like me, and it's super valuable. I just spent about 3 hours talking to a guy about how to run an SEO agency. He's another SEO agency owner.
Yeah.
Right. How do I network with him to that level? Right. And he's crushing it. Right. I was I was just passionately interested, and I was also trying to give value. I was giving him ideas like, you should really be doing that, because I really believed he should. I was like, you make a lot of money if you do that. And then we were brainstorming together. If you talk to like let's say you met Jeff Bezos at an event. Right? Right? You could be like, well, why isn't Amazon, doing search engine stuff, And then he might look at you like you're completely crazy and be like, what the hell, like that's definitely not our model, you're way off. Or he might be like, you know what? You speak our language, like your stuff, and that's actually something we've been talking about, right?
Yeah.
You know my pain points, right? And the more you interact, the better you'll get.
And this is something I've also found. When you give somebody your undivided attention, like right when you meet somebody and they talk all about themselves and you keep asking them questions, finally it comes on to, who is this guy? That's
Yeah.
asking them all these questions. That way, they're much more excited.
I love that, by the way.
Yeah.
You just keep asking them about themselves.
Well, what about you, man?
And they might go on for like 15, 20 minutes, right? Some people might never even ask you, right?
Yeah.
And who cares, right? You go on to the next person.
Right.
But some people would be like, well, you know, like, what about you? Because they're not used to it.
Right.
They're not. Like, mostly, it's a fight, right? I'm going to get the word in them. You know, like, you're speaking, I'm not listening, I'm thinking of what I'm going to say next.
Yeah.
You know? So, you know, or you're speaking and you're like, you know, in my experience, and they already think they know the answer, you know, which sometimes I catch myself doing, you know. So if you're really just listening to them, right, it's like, well, who are you? You know, tell me more about you. I love that. And then the other thing is connecting them to other people or offering some insightful thing, valuable thing, and providing it on the spot.
I hate to just leave an interaction without anything happening. I always ask, hey, what can I do to help?
Yeah.
What are you working on? How can I contribute in one way or another?
But it's doing that thing right there.
Like in the moment.
That's huge, right? Think about this, right? How many people actually tell you they're going to do something? But what if I was talking to you and I was like, by the way, you know, and I do this quite a few times, right? Like quite often. And I'll be like, well, by the way, who can I connect you to? And you're like, oh, I want to talk to whatever, right?
You'll whip out your phone.
I'll take my phone out and I'll be like, by the way, let me introduce you. By the way, I'm listening to you right now.
Yeah.
I'm just introducing you to Brian from ABC that you wanted to talk to, right? And they'll be like, wow. And you do that, I'll do that to maybe one or two connections to that person, right? Because I love connecting. That's my value.
Totally.
Right? Or maybe for you, it's a podcast. You meet a great person you want to interview on a podcast. You're like, by the way, I'm just sending you an email right now to get on the podcast, right? People love that because they're like, wow, this guy just took action. He's not a blabbermouth, right? And that builds trust. Yeah, and when I connect others, though, the caveat is, right, there's two things. The first thing is I tell them where I met them, if it's a blind introduction, if it's not double opt-in.
Okay.
Double opt-in is when you ask, hey, Alec, can I introduce you to Joe? Hey, Joe, can I introduce you to Alec? And then they both say yes and I introduce, right? Which is technically the most highest quality. Yeah. Right? But then, so like if you got like Bill Gates, you're not just going to keep throwing people at him, right? You're going to be like, hey, Bill, would you like to meet this? Would you like to meet that, right? And he'll pick, right? Right. But on the flip side, not that I have him in my network, maybe one day, but I basically, if people are down to network, then I'll just introduce them. But what I'll do is I'll say, hey, I met Alec at this event. And I'll give them the context. So if I meet someone yesterday, sorry, sneeze. Bless you. But basically, if I meet someone just yesterday, and I introduce them to somebody else, they might think like we're best friends, and they might give them all the credibility in the world that this person did not earn. So I say, hey, I met this person at ABC event today. Thought you two would really hit it off. So that's the one key there for networking and going to networking events. And everybody, my first networking event, I was super nervous and I was always pretending like I had something to do on my cell phone, even though my calendar was completely empty at the time. I didn't have anything going on. We've all been there at one point. So don't be shy. People really appreciate it if you go up, you look at them and you're like, hey, I'm Vlad. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, Vlad. So, and then I say, oh, so tell me more about you. What brings, and my easy go-to question is, what brings you to this event today? They might be like, my friend Brian. I'll tell you more about Brian, whatever, you go on. Okay, so what you say and your intentions are great, but I know you've read a lot of books. You read a book on body language, right? Didn't you? I don't think I've read it. I probably have, but I forgot. So what do you know about good body language when you're interacting with new people? Sure. Body language. I've read like different online articles and stuff, and I love that. But basically, mirroring is huge for body language. For both, like if they're like this, you're like this too. That shows rapport, and that actually happens naturally. People mirror all the time; they don't even know it. The way people are faced, like your chest is facing towards me, my chest is facing towards you. We're giving each other attention, right? But let's say we're giving each other attention, right? But this is an asshole move at an event, right? Yeah. Happened to me before. I talked to a guy, right? You're like, so there was a guy I approached. So go ahead, say something to me, right? I'm this guy at the event. This is how his body language is. Go ahead, say hi. I'm Alec or whatever, right? We're at a networking event right now. This is body language. Go ahead. Hi, I'm Alec. Hey, Alec. Nice to meet you. How you doing? And this guy was literally looking around. He didn't even make eye contact. He made me make eye contact like, oh. And then looked around, right? And I was like, this guy is basically, he's treating me like a small timer, right? Right. He's not giving me his attention, right? So like you want to give the person your attention. Totally. Right? A tip I got and I don't know if I necessarily agree with this, but they said don't look people directly in the eyes because it might be too intense.
Where do you look?
Look right below their eyes at their cheek.
Interesting. I haven't heard of that one before.
That was a sales manager gave me that one when I used to work sales. For conversation topics, personally, I love to talk about health, wealth, and relationships. That's all I'm interested in, right? But my friend Hike T, who's like an avid networker, runs an insurance agency and other businesses, he uses like FORM, which is family, occupation, what is it? Money, and then R is recreation.
Okay.
I said that not in order because I don't remember the R, but recreation, So family, occupation, recreation, and money, right? And those are kind of like general topics, So what brings you to Washington? Is your family from here?
What are your favorite questions that are a little different that you like to ask?
That most people don't.
Yeah.
I mean, who can I connect you to, right? Is a huge question that a lot of people are like, thanks for asking me that. When people are thanking you, you asked a fantastic question. In fact, I'd urge you to write it down. Whenever somebody says, thanks for asking me that, you're like, wow, I definitely hit a chord with that person and I should try this one again. So whenever I say, who can I connect you to that would be useful, right? In an authentic way.
Yeah.
Right? Fantastic question a lot. So yeah, or...
But you never ask, when you go up to someone, you never say, hey, what do you do? Right?
No.
What do you say instead?
What's your... so to get them,
They get the conversation
rolling, right?
Yeah.
So I'll ask like, hey, what brings you to the event? Brian, da-da-da.
Right.
Oh, how do you know Brian? Do you work with him? No. Oh, you do this? Oh, what do you do for work? What's the story behind that? I'm listening to the story.
So it's kind of leading into it, but it's not like you're
not off the bat.
Yeah,
because it's weird.
It's like weird, man. It's like, come on.
It's because it shows that transactional, like you don't care.
What do you do?
And you gotta feel them out. Like maybe this person, right? You ask them, so what brings you to the event? And they'll be like, oh, I parachuted in. Then you're gonna feel like, okay, this guy is not the person. You feel the personality style out. Okay, this is a jokey person.
Yeah, exactly.
Or maybe they're not here to talk business. So you lead into those questions to make them more natural. That's why you have form, right? Because those are kind of outside questions. It's not like, tell me your deepest, darkest secret. That's my first question. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody's gonna ask that off the bat. You need to build trust, right?
Right.
And the way people trust you is by the actions you take, right? The conversation, their relatability to you, right?
Right.
And then that trust is built, and then you could be like, so, whatever, right? Also, something interesting is people trust those more. I thought this was very interesting in psychology class, right? People trust more those that show that that say, you know what, Alex, I like you. They like you more if you say that, or you're a guy I can listen to, which is interesting, right? But you got to be authentic with that kind of stuff,
right?
You got to be authentic, People love to be appreciated. So if they ever give you a piece of advice, like if you're looking for advice, you know what, I appreciate that. People love that. Who doesn't want to be appreciated?
Right. Just saying, like, you appreciate other people, they'll appreciate you more.
Yeah, but it has to be like it can't be like flattery, which is like BS, like compliments.
Oh,
right?
yeah, you have to be.
It has to be like, you know what? Like, I appreciate you for interviewing me on this podcast, right?
You have to have a reason. Like, because
you can say because it helps me build my brand, etc. Right?
Yeah.
But showing appreciation is huge when networking. So if you show, if you appreciate someone, you're genuinely interested, right? You connect them with other people. Right?
Right.
You check it. Oh, also after you check in on them, that if they resonate with you, you check in. Also, the reason people I think say that I'm a good networker is because I keep tabs on people. Hey Joe, I like talking to you. How's it been? Some people are just too busy or whatever, right? But they appreciate other people reaching out. I know if somebody I talked to who I had a great connection with reached out to me, I love it.
Yeah. So, one, I just want to say I appreciate you, Vlad, for being on the podcast today and sharing all these great tips. So, two things that we've gone, you do a lot of things well, but two things that we really talked about that you do well is you're great at networking, building connections, and you've also built a community with Co-Founders Connect. You get a lot of people to show up at your meetup and whatnot. I haven't told you this yet, but I have a personal brand meetup that's going to be happening on November 14th at Atlas Workbase.
Oh,
like, I got it all figured out.
That's congratulations.
So there's a lot of people, you know, we talk about why building a community is important for building a personal brand and stuff like that. How do I really get some great people to speak at this event, and how do I get a lot of people to show up? And this would be useful for anybody growing a meetup.
How do you get speakers at your meetup?
Yeah, so let's talk about how do I get speakers on my meetup.
That's the easy part. Just ask. That's
just
the
reach
easiest
out.
part. Just reach out and ask, right? You describe the meetup, right? If it's your first, it's going to be a little bit of a tougher sell, as it should be.
Yeah.
You know, but if you say, you know, hey, you know, we've got a meetup of this size, or I've thrown them before, right?
Yeah.
That's easy, you know. And then you can tell what kind of speaker you're dealing with. Some speakers will be like, well, how many people are going there, you know? And you're like, you know, you're like, that's obviously not going to be the speaker I get at this event right now. You know, maybe in the future.
Yeah.
Right. Some speakers are super down. You know.
Right.
And they just love speaking. They love giving back.
Correct.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's really all it is for getting speakers.
What
It's
about
that
people?
easy.
How do I get 100 people to show up at this event?
That's harder, right?
Okay.
So to get people to show up at an event, right?
It's going to be free, by the way.
That's great, right? So that means when you're doing an event and it's free, that means about 30% of the attendance is going to show up. Let's say they're going to show up.
Okay, good to know.
You're going to be talking to your best friend.
So so that's a good point. So if there's 100 people that say they RSVP'd on your
30.
meetup, that means about 30 are going to show up. That's
So you
a good
need
rule of thumb for
300
people.
for if it's a free event.
Yeah.
So you need, if it's paid, it's like closer to like 80% and then pricing.
That makes sense because they paid for it. They're going to show up. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you go in and then you get 300 people to say yes on meetup.com or yes on the event, right?
Yeah.
Right? Then about 30% will show. Sometimes 50% if they're super interested.
Okay, so how do I get 300 people to RSVP?
Right, that's easy, right? So you go
That's
in.
easy?
Well, it's not easy.
Well, tell me how to do it.
It's easy to do.
It just takes a lot of time.
Like I was telling you about reading a book a week.
Yeah.
It's easy to do, but it takes a lot of effort.
Okay.
Right? Like you have to consistently do. It's also very easy not to do. So first, you make a list of everyone in your network, right?
Yeah. That would be interested in something like this.
Right, and you reach out to them.
Yeah.
Right. Then during that conversation, you ask them, how can we get more people involved? Right.
Yeah, and they might say, I might have some friends or something like that.
They might say they have friends. They might say I have a radio interview. They might say here are the ideas of how to grow it.
Okay.
Right. This is what I'm doing for my business constantly. Right.
Yeah.
And this is the same thing you're doing for this meetup. Right. Then the speakers, you ask them how you could promote it.
Right, because that's the thing. So these speakers can be kind of influencers for you in a way. If they have
a huge brand.
Right.
If some of them have influence, if they built a strong enough brand, right?
Then
I could get at least 30 people coming to your event myself.
Yeah.
Because I have meetups, right?
Right.
So I promote them through the meetups, right? Right. But it depends on the speaker, right? If the speaker doesn't really, if his brand, your brand is as valuable as your audience. Your audience makes it. Like it's only as valuable as the action, as the influence that it gives people, right? Or the influence, I would say, that you have over your audience to you. Mm-hmm. I guess that's the way I kind of constructed it while I was talking about it. Okay. Your brand is only as valuable
as the people that follow you?
No, your brand is only as valuable as the influence you have over it. Over the audience that follow it.
Right.
You know? So, and also the people that follow you as well, that's true. I have only actually 300 Instagram followers. Uh-huh. But some of them are very, very successful.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say that, right? So I might, there might be somebody else with 10,000 followers, right? We might have the same amount of millionaires following us. And mine might view my stuff a lot more, right? And that's, I'm not going to say anything else about that.
Okay.
So it's not just about quantity, but so the brand people, so you'll get a sense of how strong somebody's brand is based upon.
And here's the thing, it's all about building a personal brand, so the only speakers I'm going to have there are people that have successfully built personal brands, which is great because they'll have an audience. So we have that. Bring speakers in that have personal brands, and that can be useful advice for anybody building a meetup.
Especially for you, you're like you got that advantage.
Yeah, and then another thing is reach out to your network, everybody you know that would find interest in the event, and then ask them, how can we get more people at this event? So you have that going.
And then you reach out to every single meetup whose audience might be interested in the event.
So as a recap, this is what Vlad said. He said, go to meetup.com and find other meetups that are similar to yours, that have a lot of people.
That have your audience, yeah.
Either if you have enough time or hire a virtual assistant, have them private message all the members of that group and personally inviting them to your event.
Yeah, you can use like a template, like, hey, blank name.
Yeah,
this is like Alec, just want to personally invite you. Also, when you do that message, right, nobody likes a leech, right? So basically, you ask in that message, how can I help you, by the way? Or, by the way, what would you want to get out of this event if you were interested?
Yes.
Or what would it take for you to go?
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. So we have that going. Is there anything else that you can think of on the topic?
We could be here all day, bro. This is about throwing events. Like this is organizing it with other event organizers, right?
Right. So saying this is another hack that I'm kind of thinking of right now.
Sure.
I have some other big meetups who are free sponsors of my event. In exchange, they promote the event to their email list.
Yeah,
or something like that.
Yeah, they get a shout out, right?
Yeah.
Right. Now, it's how trustable are you if you've never done an event before. Right. But the key is, you just do one, you get 30 people to show up, right? Yeah. Much easier to sell next time when you've done it before, right? The problem is sometimes people don't want to put the work in. So they're like, yo, I want to get 500 people to my first meetup, right?
Yeah.
My first meetup, I overdid it. I was like, I'm going to have Oprah there, I'm going to have the president, I'm going to have Jay-Z on the mic. Yeah. And then basically, Zachary Cohen, who started the Hacker News meetup, who Tim Kitchen now runs, right? He was like, look, bro, like, you're making it too big. Like, just, and I was super busy, right? It all depends on your schedule, if you're gonna make this a full-time thing or not. He's like, look, you're super busy. Just invite 20 friends, right? Tell them and invite 5 of their friends, and then just do whatever else you can, and just enjoy it. And I was like, sure, I'll do that.
So you're saying kind of start off small?
There's nothing wrong with starting off small.
Well, we're going big the first time.
I'm not saying not to basically, I'm not saying not to dream big or attempt to do a big feat, which is fantastic. I mean, my friend Justin did Blockchain Northwest.
You're talking about Justin Wu, right?
Justin Wu, yeah. Blockchain Northwest, I helped him organize that event, right?
Yeah.
Helped him get some of the speakers, etc. He got 600 people to show up to his first thing, right?
Yeah.
He was going for like 3,000.
Okay.
Right. But it took a lot of money and all that, right?
Yeah.
So you gotta think it through. But either way, it doesn't matter, because you're gonna be ahead of everybody else who does nothing.
Right.
The couch warriors.
99% of people
the couch warriors
are not
99%. Yeah,
or even going
the talkers, right? Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm gonna throw an event too.
Yeah.
They're gonna get a lot of those. Yeah. Sounds good. See you in 5 years.
So there's a lot of hacks in order to do this, but it's easy to do, is what you're saying. It just takes a lot of effort.
Life.
Yeah. And the last question I'll leave you with is, you're running Logic Inbound, full time. You're a co-founder. You direct operations more or less. Why do you prioritize time out of your super busy schedule to build your offline personal brand through all these events?
So it happens naturally for me.
Okay.
It happens organically. So today I simply connect people, right? Mm-hmm. And then I didn't think of the Smashing Brands podcast, right? I just connected Alec with a bunch of people, and then he just came to me. He's like, "Yo, by the way, you're at Atlas. Just pop in and just hop in for a podcast episode." Yeah. And I'm like, I'm down for that, right? Mm-hmm. So I naturally love connecting people, right?
Okay.
And it's around business, right? That's why I'm on the brand podcast.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that's how it happens, and the better I think you get at a field, the more requests you get. My concern is being too big shot, right? Mm-hmm. Which I do not want to be, because I still have a long way to go. I don't like people who really flex super hard on social media, which is why I did the post on my Facebook recently. I don't know if you saw it. We had 100,000 visitors in a month. Yeah. Right? But a lot of the traffic wasn't converting, so I don't want to go out that way. Right. So that's why I've been still, even today, taking it easier than I can on podcast episodes and all this news. Once we get 7 figures, then maybe I'll start talking a little bit more. So yeah.
So really what you do is, the whole connecting with people, it just integrates seamlessly with your full-time job, which is why you're able to really do both.
I honestly believe if you're genuinely helpful, if you're genuinely authentic in what you do and you provide value for other people, that value, and it sounds a little woo-woo, but basically that value out there, right? You get better and better providing more value, and the better you are at providing value for others, right? The more others are going to seek you out because they want value.
Yeah.
You know, versus like, what can I get in return?
The more you give, the more you get.
Yeah, but if you just focus on the giving part and just make sure you don't get burned out.
Right.
You know.
Awesome. Well, Vlad, thank you so much for being on the podcast. You know, when I'm interviewing people, when I'm doing LinkedIn videos or whatever kind of content I'm creating, I really strive to provide my audience with actionable tips, and I think we got a lot of great information from you, so thank you so much.
It was a pleasure.
I will see you guys in the next podcast episode.